I don't know if they're good.
Well, hello. I'm here with Doug to talk about Big Brother and other things. It is Friday, January 30, 2026. And that seemed like the big story to me. ICE is going on a shopping spree. They've allocated a ton of money to ICE. They have like 3 or 5 times more money than they used to have for surveillance. And they are buying Celebrite service to extract data from seized phones. They're buying Paragon's graphite tool, which will remotely hack phones and take all the data off it. They are buying from data brokers, Webloke and Tangles, data from data brokers, which will then um, tie that together with everything they can find on social media so they can build dossiers of targets, including historic and current location data, without the need for a warrant. So, and of course, the privacy advocates writing this article say their concern is that this will be used against undocumented people and immigrants who are here legally, as well as U.S. citizens who have protested, and all of that is obviously true. The recent executive order said anybody who questions Christianity or the Republican idea of a family, or who questions the actions of ICE or the government will be considered a terrorist. And the people they've been assaulting and killing in Minneapolis, they've said you're a terrorist because you're out there holding a sign or yelling at them while they are tracking people. And they also have taken to following people to their homes. They watch someone who protests, and then they'll send a bunch of ICE agents to block off the road near your home and knock on your door and say, "We know where your family lives. You better quit protesting," which is spectacularly violating the First Amendment, like everything they've been doing. Anyway, that's why it seems to me like we really have Big Brother. And I know
Yeah, interesting.
one bit of pushback they're getting is they killed the second guy they killed. They said, well, he had a gun, therefore he deserves to die. And all the Second Amendment guys are, hey, wait, now carrying a gun is bad. Wait, since when am I a right wing Republican? And now I'm going to say carrying a gun is bad. Wait a minute.
Yeah, Sam, that it's an interesting story
Mhm.
or interesting comment.
Yeah.
And have you watched the videos?
No, I just hear descriptions of them.
Yeah, so somebody has put together a timeline of, I think, three or four different angles
Yeah.
where they lined up, so you can see in sequence from different views what's happening. Now, I'm not claiming to be an expert. Somebody has also done a sound analysis, so you can hear the gunshots.
Yeah.
So I'm not on either side. I'm not defending him, but I'm not saying he deserved to die. But, growing up in some cities where there's a lot of gun violence, when somebody comes up to you who has a gun, I mean, if you're going to an event that has a lot of volatility with it, and police are going to be there, and I grew up at the tail end of the 60s in Berkeley with the protesting, it's not really, in my opinion, a good idea, even though you can legally carry a gun. And I think, didn't he have a concealed permit to
Yeah.
carry?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally legal.
Yeah.
But is it a good idea?
Well, I don't have a gun at all. I don't think it's ever a good idea to have a gun. Um, but I wouldn't have done it. However, the
Yeah.
right wingers supporting ICE do not appreciate this argument, especially coming from President Trump saying, well, he had a gun, therefore he deserves to just be shot for that. They say, hey, wait a minute.
Well, listen, a woman, here's a side of this. I think women can relate to this easier. If you're in college in your 20s, right?
hmm
Are you going to go to a Friday night frat party in a string bikini?
Well, I mean,
Legally you can do it.
well, sure, no,
Nothing.
sure, I agree. As a matter of fact, it probably was the presence of the gun that got him killed, which is why I
Yeah.
don't have a gun. I know whatever the conflict is, having a gun is just going to make it worse. But
Right. It's going to
I'm a
escalate it.
typical left wing of that type. But these people believe guns make them safer, and the whole right is dedicated to that cause. So it is. Uh, John Stewart had a good segment about this, saying, "Wait a minute." Had all these historical guys saying, "Wait, you should carry a gun everywhere." Remember, they're going to give the teachers guns. to fight off school
Right.
shootings and everything else. The right wing answered everything is guns, 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 more guns. And now suddenly they hate guns. Where did this come from? Anyway,
I'm just, sometimes you have to use some common sense. Sure, you're totally
yeah,
legal in doing this, but
yeah,
growing
yeah.
up in the Bay Area, San
Well,
Francisco Bay Area, you learn quickly not to argue with a guy who has a gun and a badge.
I know. I know. Well, yeah. Anyway, that's why I go to protests and there's guys that try to recruit us to go mess with the ICE agents downtown. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that one. I'm standing out here in the suburbs where it's peaceful with a sign. So, I mean, I'm not taking that risk. However, the ones that are become the martyrs for the cause. And now that two white people have been killed, they're actually pushing back on some of this.
Yeah.
So I think they're very much
Well,
like the four
Sam,
people that got killed at Kent State.
right. Yeah. Yeah. They had a right to be there. And, same thing happened in Berkeley at People's Park. There were, the story behind that is I think there were 20 people who were injured or shot by police, and they were protesting peacefully. And the people who died, I think there was one person who died, one person that got blinded. They were standing on a building a block away,
Hmm.
just observing. They weren't even part of the protest. There were
Wow.
stray bullets. The police came out and announced that it was a violent protest and that the police needed to um, get control of the crowd. And the way that they were doing that was by shooting.
Yeah.
And the police also said there were rocks and bottles that were being thrown at the police. And yet, pictures right after the police and everybody disappeared show no broken glass, no bottles, no rocks, nothing in the
Yeah.
streets. Yeah.
Just like now, they lie like crazy. I remember when they shot the guy at the Daly City BART station, and all the cops just lied about it. It's quite
Wait, Daly
understandable.
City, Daly
Yeah,
City or Fruitvale?
Daly City. I was living near there, and the
Oh,
cop they
okay.
they arrested some guys. They put handcuffs on them, and then one cop pulled out. They thought they were pulling out a taser, but they accidentally pulled out their gun and just shot him in the head after they had him already handcuffed and tied up.
No, that was Fruitvale, Bart. That was
Nope.
Oscar Grant.
Yeah, it was Daly City.
No, 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 no.
Anyway,
We'll argue. Okay.
then the cops all lied about it, and they tried to seize all the cell phones, but the train took off, so they were unable to get all the cell phones. And that's the only reason we found out the truth. They all just lied about it, like they always do, to cover it up. Anyway, so
Wait, so you're
yeah,
saying that was Daly City, huh?
yeah, I remember very much because I was right near it at the time. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's
Ah,
just
yeah, it does to me.
Well, the interesting part to me is the way the cops all lie after the fact. And this is really understandable. I mean, they'll say, look, here you are. We're the thin blue line. You're going to back me up. You're going to take a bullet for me. So would you scruple at just lying for me to protect me from the rotten press that's no good anyway? I can understand why they all just lie. And they feel pressured to all repeat the same lie because they just see it as defending their brothers in blue.
Yeah, but I will say that does happen quite frequently.
Yeah.
However, not always. There are some cops that,
Yeah, like Serpico,
yeah, Serpico,
who
there
then
was one
becomes the
in,
enemy of the whole department for not
right,
not
right, right.
lining up when you tell you to line up, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Those are the whistleblowers.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, Sam, this took place in Oakland.
Hmm. All right.
So just goes to show how our memory is. And it is Fruitvale BART station.
Hmm. All right.
I will argue that, and we could debate this, but here's something I'll bring up. Yeah, the police officer who did this was very young, right? I think he had just come off training or he was still a training officer.
I don't know. It certainly does. Everything ICE does certainly shows that they're like a bunch of poorly trained thugs. South Park seems to have it right. They'd hire somebody and they just hand him a gun and say, "Okay, go beat up these protesters." And they
Yeah,
did cut the training period down from like 5 months to 47 days to honor Donald Trump.
yeah, look, Sam, just hear me out on this.
Yeah.
With the shooting of Oscar Grant,
Oh,
and
that guy. Yeah. That one was
yeah, and
definitely new cop.
yeah, yeah. And I will give the ICE agents some leeway here and just hear me out on this.
Hmm.
If you're new and you're not trained or you haven't been in situations like this, you run into what's called situational paralysis. Are you familiar with that?
No, I know they often freeze up. I know that.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this happens infrequently, but it does happen even with trained people that they just become overwhelmed by the situation, not
Sure,
knowing what to do.
sure.
And, we've seen this sometimes with older people where they're driving along. I think this has happened several times in the past couple of years where they mix up the gas and the brake.
All the
And
time. Yeah,
so, and yeah, and they plow into a crowd of people,
yeah,
many times killing them. That's an example of situational paralysis. I know of a story of an airline pilot who's coming in for a landing and commercial jet, and he froze up. And for about 2 minutes, the co-pilot had to land the plane. Took over and had to go around, and the pilot has no idea what
yeah.
was going on or why. So my point is with the Oscar Grant shooting, yeah, that was unfortunate, but the guy carried both a gun and a taser,
Right.
and I'm thinking, I don't know for sure, but the possibility is there in his mind that he was overwhelmed and pulled the wrong weapon.
Well, that's what the defense was, and that's probably true. I can believe
Yeah,
that because there
yeah,
was no reason to shoot the guy at that time.
right,
It was clearly just a mistake.
right. And I would argue some of these ICE agents, kind of same situation. They're not prepared. You know, they they do have training, but training does not prepare you for real world situation.
Yeah,
So I look, I'm not defending them. I'm just trying to give a
yeah.
human explanation
Sure, but
of what's going on.
I think what's going on is they're all hyped up with a bunch of nonsense
Right.
about how these immigrants are all like rapists and murderers and we have to hunt them down. That happened to me when I crossed the Canada border. They ran out and attacked me and said, you were really angry and scared of us. And we were just tourists that didn't see the sign and went like 20 feet past where we were supposed to be. And they freaked out like we were, dangerous terrorists with a bomb or something. They are hyped up. And like I say, they do all this
Yeah, yeah,
immigration
but Sam,
enforcement by pulling out their guns first, which is, not logical.
well, yeah, but how do they know? How do they know you're not a terrorist?
That's right. But the
How
fact
do they
is,
know you're not a suicide bomber?
that's right. So if you get them in the mindset where they're assuming that really scary stuff, then they start at like aggression level, a high aggression level when it's not necessary.
But that's what you have to do in those situations. You have to take control.
Yeah, well, the number one risk to cops is stopping vehicles, and I don't think they have best results by drawing their gun every time they stop a vehicle, and they don't because that is usually not the right move. They talk to you and then assess, unless there's some evidence that you're more than just a routine offender. They don't pull a gun on you every time they stop you to tell you we're on a red light.
No, but
And I think the
there.
immigrants are equally unlikely to have a gun or a bomb or anything, especially since they're grabbing them at like picking up their kids in church and the hospital and their immigration hearing. I don't think they're dealing with people that have a suicide bomb vest on.
No, no, I would agree. But how do you know they don't have a weapon or guns? And look at the
Yeah,
guy that got shot. He had a gun. What?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, nothing illegal about it.
yeah. Well, anyway,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, so it's unfortunate, but I will
yeah,
tell you, you know, car stops by police are very dangerous,
they are.
and they do get shot
They do.
and killed.
I know. I know it's their most dangerous activity, and yet they don't move in with maximum force. That is not the safest move. Just always approach with maximum force.
Well, what would you suggest? How
Well,
would you handle
they
it?
train them in things like de-escalation, which is better. I
But how
saw.
do you know when you walk up to somebody that they don't have a gun and that they're ready to shoot you?
Well, that's a problem. But I think
So you have to start with that assumption that you're walking into a dangerous situation and then de-escalate it.
I suppose I don't really know exactly what they train the cops to do, but I know they don't start with their gun drawn.
Well, you have to assume the worst, right?
Yes,
Self-preservation.
Yeah. I mean, you have to consider the risk. You're right. And I don't know what the right move is there. But
Right. I don't know
I do know
either.
that they
Right.
don't show aggression to you if you don't show aggression to them. I've been pulled over, and the cops are not threatening. They approach you in sort of a friendly way. That's what they've always done to me. So that appears to be what they're trained to do, which I think is correct.
Right. Right.
And I
Right.
would think that even if you have a scared person with a gun, if the cop seems sort of friendly, you're probably not going to shoot him right away. I mean, if you're real, I think he's pretty much hosed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why
Yeah.
I understand it's risky. Anyway, um, so
Anyway, let's move on.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
just kind of my thought on this.
yeah. So a Saudi dissident won in a UK court for being hacked by Saudi Arabia. So he was he did criticism of the Saudi government on YouTube, and they used Pegasus spyware to hack his phone, and he won a couple $4 million for that. So that's some progress, I suppose, against all this spyware use. And TikTok has been destroyed just like Elon Musk destroyed um, Twitter. And just as fast. As soon as TikTok was sold to Ellison, he immediately canceled all the right wing accounts that would criticize Trump, all the accounts that would criticize Israel. In fact, I heard yesterday they say now if you just go, apparently you can send comments in TikTok or messages, and if you just type the word Epstein, your message won't go through. And the prominent accounts have just vanished completely. And if you post a video saying something critical of Trump that used to get 1 million hits, you'll get 0 hits. So they ruthlessly made the algorithm 100% biased on the right. And then they lied about it. They said, oh no, a server, we're having a server problem at the new data center. This is all just accidental effects of a server problem, which is ridiculous. So
It
this is the,
is ridiculous.
yeah.
So
And
let's
yeah,
kind of, this was one of my stories, Sam, since
yeah,
you brought into this. So the TikTok ban that began under Biden administration and was given several stays of execution by Trump,
yeah,
right, has
yep,
now come to an end. ByteDance will own 20% of the US business, while
yeah,
15% of the stakes go to Oracle, Silver Lake, MGX, which is a state owned investment AI firm in the UAE. Now, interesting, other owners include DFO. Any idea who that is?
no idea.
The Dell family office,
Oh,
whatever that is. So connected to Michael Dell.
yeah.
So, a comment that somebody mentioned that I overheard was kind of interesting. On TikTok, have you ever, we hear videos negative, or at least in the past, about the US and about other governments, right? Other
Uh,
societies.
Supposedly, I haven't been able to use TikTok because they
Yeah,
banned it on
okay.
devices.
You
Um,
got a ban.
I just hear about
But
second order effects.
but you know what you never hear something negative about?
I would assume China, right?
Right. Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Right.
China is all, everything is good in China.
Yeah. Well, that's why
So
they originally did it. They said it's Chinese propaganda. So now it's MAGA propaganda.
yeah, that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
at least you could say it's American now.
Yeah, yeah.
And so anyway, the similar thing happened with Booz Allen. Um, the Booz Allen military contractor and Pentagon suddenly canceled all their contracts with them, saying their cybersecurity isn't up to snuff. And by the way, their cybersecurity is not very good, but I was surprised because they seem as good as the other military contractors at a low level. But then it turned out it's all because they hired a contractor, Charles Littlejohn, who dumped Trump's tax records from them. And it came out that both Littlejohn and Edward Snowden specifically took these jobs in order to get the data to whistleblow. So the problem with these companies is not their many other cybersecurity failures, but the fact that their own employees deliberately plotted to leak secrets and turned whistleblower. And I think nobody is safe from that. And that's what, for ever since Snowden, everybody's been super paranoid about how to catch the insider threat. And they do crazy things like the NSA forces everybody to take a polygraph every 3 months. And there's a whole lot of products for sale. One of my students brought one up in class just last week that will supposedly detect the insider threats by monitoring network activity. I think this is not much different than the old witch sniffers in tribal societies that would try to find out who was the witch among you. But the concern is real. You say, your boss says, what if one of our employees is another Snowden? We'd be screwed. And you say, yeah, how do you know that's not happening? How do you tell which
Yeah,
employee is not
yeah.
loyal? There's no good answer, I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, that is absolutely true. And, that's why I was saying in police departments, kind of same thing. There's usually one person that's a whistleblower or a
Yeah.
couple people.
Yeah, and there's the IA department, which is basically nothing but whistleblowers.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, um, here's the creators of Project 2025 have another plan to improve American society. They want to get people married. So they want to set up re-education camps for unmarried couples where you go there and they train you about marriage, and at the end, you'll get married, like in Mass Wedding, like Sun Myung Moon. So, and just like
So,
everything in Project 2025, this sounds like a paranoid fantasy, except most of it is coming true.
yeah, something interesting about that, that's something that the Mormons do.
Oh, I didn't know they did it too. Yeah.
Well, not so much, but if you're Mormon, especially if you're a girl, young woman, you're indoctrinated by the time from time of birth, really, up until you're at marrying age, that you're to find a man and have as many babies, right,
Yeah, well,
as possible.
I think this is essentially what most rural agricultural and traditional cultures do. Everybody is expected to get married, and societal pressure holds that together. I think that's very common everywhere, not even without the religious overtones. Everybody, their cherished moments are weddings, and they want to have the portrait on the wall of the whole family gathering and all that jazz. It's just your destiny and really your duty to your parents and grandparents to get married and have more kids, and you're considered a failure if you don't do it. That's very common worldwide, I think,
Well, then why are birth rates down?
because it's been a problem all through history, back to the Roman Empire, that once an empire becomes powerful and the people become rich and comfortable, they stop having so many babies because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of bother, and you don't really have to do it. In a desperately poor society, you have to have
Yeah,
kids to keep you alive. So when people actually get the choice, and especially when women start having rights, they have less marriage and less babies. Because as
yeah,
you point out, the
yeah,
primary indoctrination is to train the women to think this is your role and you have no choice.
yeah,
The women are basically sort of slaves.
yeah. Yeah, the people that leave the Mormon religion are really bitter about all this, the women especially.
Yeah, I think the women do get the worst part of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
the women are
yeah.
basically trained that they're just possessions owned by their father, who are then traded in a ceremony to be owned by their husband, and they're owned and controlled by a man for their whole life. And they understandably rebel against that.
Well, yeah, a little different in the Mormon religion, but not too far. It's more the church rather than the family
Yeah,
is
that's right.
part of it, but you
Yeah,
have to include the church along with it.
sure. But I think the Mormons also won't let women have power in the church and stuff. It's, I believe the old,
Absolutely not.
yeah, they
Yeah,
believe the old stuff. The man is the Lord over the woman, the way Christ is the Lord over the church.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
And I
The
understand women not going along with that.
the only role that women have is to
Right.
have babies,
Yeah, that's right.
right? To have more Mormon babies.
Yep. And of course, that's why you had the big feminism in the 70s, and then you had a backlash in the 80s when a considerable number of women said, as a matter of fact, I would like to be a wife and have babies. So
Yeah,
you have to respect that is a legitimate choice if you make it, but it should be a choice.
it should be a choice. It's
Yeah.
right. The pendulum flows, slides both ways.
Yeah. Anyway, so in the same spirit of this madness, Barry Weiss, the new CBS director, has now hired a new doctor who is a guy that denies germ theory.
Oh, good.
Yeah, which is, basically like RFK. They want to take our medicine back to like 1700, before the discovery of pasteurization and germs. That's why you don't need vaccinations or anything. It's like the Joe Rogan thing. Well, if you work out and you're strong, diseases won't hurt you. You know, vaccines are for the weak.
Yeah, right,
And
right.
this is now our official government position, the NIH position, and the position of CBS News now. So it's this is something I didn't see coming. A society advanced science and medicine and knowledge just decides to throw that away and go back into the dark ages and back to being Nazis again. It is I would like to see sociology and psychology become more scientific. I'd like somebody to explain to me how this happens. Why would anybody go back to, like, I remember when Trump campaigned the first time, he said, I'm going to reopen the coal mines so you can all get jobs mining coal. And I'm like, What? Who in the hell would want to do that? Our grandfathers, mine Cole said, boy, I sure hope my kids never have to work in this horrible coal mine. Why would anybody go back to that?
Well,
And
it's a good, honest living, right? Good, hard work, honest living,
I
zero
know
pay,
this
and you
this
die
phenomenon,
early.
this phenomenon of seeing the past through rose-tinted lenses, like let's be Nazis. That'll make everything great. There's a reason we quit being Nazis. Bloody hell. Anyway, um, it's
Yeah,
pretty shocking.
yeah, yeah. It is very interesting. There was the Nuremberg trial movie that came out not too long ago,
Yeah.
where they went after Goring. And as a result of that, I've kind of looked back at some of the trials and things that went on, and it's pretty interesting. Um, the commandant of Auschwitz, the last commandant, right?
Hmm.
Um, Really interesting the dual life that they had. He was a family man,
Yeah.
and they've interviewed his daughter, and he said, loving husband,
Yeah.
loving father, really took care of me, but he had a job to do,
That's right.
and it's not unlike what ICE is doing.
That's right. No, this is compartmentalization. And
Right.
by the way, if you really are racist, then you think it's all justified. And I think people always have to find some way to justify how they're the hero of their own story. They always find
Yeah,
some argument where they're the good guy and they're just misunderstood by people who would dare to criticize part of their life.
well, I, you know, Sam, but it's a job.
It is.
I mean,
It is.
right?
I remember like the
If you're
CIA
in,
recruiters say we look for people who have a sort of moral flexibility.
right, there you go. There you go. Right? I mean, is it easy to be an executioner? It's a job.
People
Somebody's
do
got
it.
to do it.
That's right. People do it.
Right.
And they
Right.
come up apparently another bit of psychology. They find some way to overlook the negative aspect of that part of their job or to explain
Yeah.
it away or deny it or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so the Melania Trump documentary is out. And in the UK, it opened at two theaters. And across the two theaters, they sold a total of one ticket. So they're just empty. It's pretty hilarious. There are just empty theaters, and Variety reviewed it, and they said if you played this movie on an airplane, people would still walk out. So people are savaging it. And Melania says she thinks there's going to be sequels and everything, and it's going to be a hit. So
Well, all she has to do is pay people to buy tickets and it will be.
yeah, if they did that, I mean, like, yeah. Anyway, it's pretty madness. Um, Let's see what else is fun. Oh, there's a new app, which I was thinking maybe I'd do the application. If people don't get married and join a nuclear family, then you get this app, which is a big hit in China. The app is Are You Dead? You have to check in every 2 days, or it contacts people. Well, apparently he died. Since you live alone, nobody will notice. I heard about a woman who went to visit her neighbor because her neighbor was old and alone, and she was very concerned that she would die and be rotting in there and nobody would notice. So she checked in every day just to see if she was dead.
And was she?
Well, eventually she was,
Oh,
and she
okay.
found her dead, and that woman willed her house because she had no relatives or anything. And she really appreciated this bit of kindness, just coming in to say hi every day. That was her only social contact left.
I see. I see.
So,
I will say that there are people who do die alone
oh yeah,
and they're not found for 6 months, 9 months, a
I
year.
know, I know.
Yeah.
So that's why I was thinking maybe I should get that app. I live alone. Uh, uh, Meta is
All
in
right.
trouble. Yeah, maybe you're not some.
Oh, wait, let me give you one.
Yeah.
So, Sam, BitLocker, which
Oh
is
yeah.
whole drive encryption or
Yeah.
partition encryption.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I didn't know this, but FBI serves Microsoft with search warrants
Yeah.
asking to provide recovery keys to unlock
Yeah.
encrypted data stored on computers. And they get about 20 requests per year.
Yeah.
And in most cases, they can't comply because they don't have the key.
Right.
And there's a case where FBI served Microsoft with a search warrant to provide recovery keys. And this was for an investigation going on in Guam that was related to COVID and unemployment assistance, in a plot to steal funds. And as it turned out, they were backing up the keys up into
Yeah.
the cloud, and Microsoft complied.
Well, and I didn't see why any of this is surprising. I remember when I first learned about BitLocker, the first thing
Yeah,
to do is we recommend putting this in your Microsoft account. And my first thought is that's a good idea for data recovery, but of course it means that if the cops come with a court order, they'll hand over the key. So I would say, if you aren't committing crimes, that's probably a good move.
yeah, yeah.
But
Right,
absolutely, it's no different than them coming for iCloud data from your iPhone. Everybody should understand this. I mean, it's much better for data recovery, but it does
correct.
mean that it's subject to court authorized seizure.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, moral of the story, don't back up or store your BitLocker keys in the cloud.
Unless you're willing to let the cops have it if they have a
Yeah,
valid search warrant. If you have
yeah.
faith in the system, then that might be okay. However, some people who shall remain nameless have begun to suspect that the government is not entirely trustworthy.
Well,
I don't know what kind of people would think thoughts like that, especially these days, but there are people like that. Um,
have
so
you ever been able to trust the government?
ever since I was a child, my parents strongly encouraged us not to, and they talked about the people killed for being communists who weren't.
Right.
Uh, I forget the name now, but
Rose, was it the
yeah,
Rosenbergs?
the Rosenbergs. They talked about the Reds. Ever since I was a kid, the parents said, "Don't trust the government. Don't use a credit card. Don't leave a trail of everything you do. The government will come after you." And they're not wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So,
yeah.
so more than 1,000 people are suing Meta, saying it causes anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and death in kids. And once again, internal documents have come out from inside Facebook showing that they know Instagram is a drug causing addiction in kids, and they carefully designed it to addict them more, to sell them more. And internally, they did compare themselves to drug pushers. So this reminds me of the damning Bill Gates memo that came out when they accused him of like sabotaging the alternatives to MS-DOS. They totally know what they're doing, and they put it in writing. And then when they go to court, these documents look really bad for them. So anyway,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah.
and and one thing we
So,
talked about a lot is age gating. In the UK, they have age gating for
yep.
porn and other things, and Pornhub has said the age gating process is terrible. It doesn't work, and we're just going to black hole the entire UK nation. We're not going to serve it anymore, rather than try to participate with the age gating service. Although their explanation, they don't say exactly what they're complaining about, but they say the law is failing, and they're just going to pull out of the country. So,
Well, let's further investigate this a little bit. UK is edging closer to following Australia in
right.
blocking under 16s, kids under 16 from social media.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people want to do that here, and about half the U.S. states already do block kids from accessing porn, or they attempt to. The block is extremely ineffective technically, I think, but the law is
Wait,
there.
wait, half the states? I thought it
Yeah.
was less than five, less than 10.
No, I've heard blocking porn, not social media.
Oh, porn. Oh, I
Yeah,
see. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I
Although,
wonder how that's working out.
as far as I can tell, it's extremely ineffective. All you have to do is go to a search engine, and you can quickly find sites that are totally ignoring it.
Yeah, understood. And then you have AI porn, right?
That's the big scandal at Twitter. Is the
Twitter.
AI generated
Yeah.
porn. And so everybody made a big deal, and Elon Musk said he's going to block it. But then it came out that there's like 40 other apps on all the other platforms doing the same thing, and they've always been there, just nobody paid attention, which would make
Yeah.
sense. That's why I thought Elon Musk probably can't stop it from happening. If you have a picture generator, how do you stop it from generating nudes? You can try, but all AI safety guardrails are very weak and easily bypassed. Just like all your age gates and all your porn filters, these things sound good until you say, how do you really know? I mean, look at bars. Bars have people come in with fake IDs and convenience stores and fool people, and the internet is the same. I mean, you have some barrier, but it's not very hard to circumvent.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, one thing I was is interesting is China has now executed 11 members of the Myanmar scam mafia, and these are the people responsible for all the online,
Really?
calls you get. Yeah, they have these basically slave groups in Myanmar where they've brought in mostly Chinese citizens to another country, impounded their passport, forced them to work in call centers, calling Americans and scamming them. And they had a crackdown in Myanmar, but it turned out it was pretty much fake. And now China's had a crackdown, and I don't know if it's real or fake. The problem is they try to shut these things down, but in fact, they make a lot of money for the local economy and they bribe a lot of the local cops and stuff. So when they made a big scene of shutting down one of the buildings, but it turned out they just made a deal with the other guy to like shut down his competitor. So it's a lot like the drug trade in America, where they have
Right.
these raids, but often they're just effective, they're just fake.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
that produces a lot of money corrupts your system.
Yeah. So, if you want more information about this, UAE,
Yeah.
a year ago, I think January,
Hmm.
there's a YouTube video, the largest scammer bust. It was around 3,000.
Hmm.
And Jim Browning, who's been is known for going after scammers, infiltrating their phone systems and CC systems, closed circuit TV cameras, has a big video on that. And he talks about just how large and sophisticated these operations are.
Yeah. They very much like the drug trade, your cartels. You have
Right,
something that makes a
right.
lot of money and you have a really efficient machine doing it, and they pay off the cops and the courts to look the other way. And yeah.
But what's interesting is and I don't know the answer to this, and I don't know if you do either, but why UAE? Why in Dubai?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I would think China, I understand, but Middle East, Muslim, you know,
Yeah.
I,
When I was in Costa Rica, our guide said the reason he's working class and working as a guide now, and before that he had to work at inferior jobs, is because his grandparents were rich, and then their neighbor decided to sue the family, and he bribed the judge to just let steal all their property.
yeah.
So yeah, he had corruption there too. Anyway,
Well, Sam, it's not like it doesn't happen here,
oh, I know.
right? The entire Bay Area was part of a Mexican land grant,
Yeah,
and people came in and snatched up the land, and
yeah,
the Peraltas, which is one of the families, sued everybody over 30 years. They pretty much went bankrupt. And the ruling was, well, people are living there. Too bad. They did get some money in the end, but nowhere near the value.
yeah.
Boy, if they had that land today,
This is the way Trump wants to seize Canada and Greenland. The same kind of stuff.
yeah,
It's pretty common for land developers to just seize things these ways.
right, right.
Anyway, I actually have two real InfoSec stories, sort of.
Okay,
There's a couple of apps. Now, I didn't know about this. There's something called Google Firebase that you use to make mobile apps, which I'd like to look into. And there was a developer, a security researcher, who has found a flaw in Google Firebase. And there's two stories I read coming from the same security researcher. He found Google Firebase by default allows anyone to make themselves an authenticated user who can then access the app's backend storage. So apparently it's frequently misconfigured. And one of the apps is an app for quitting porn, where you are supposed to record. This sounds a lot like what the Speaker of the House has. You're supposed to record how you feel about porn and how often you masturbate and how you're going to quit. And then they leaked out all the data. But and there was another one where the same flaw was used. Apparently, people are incorrectly implementing this Google Firebase. And the other one caught my attention. Google took down a residential proxy network, which is called the biggest botnet ever. They put malware in Android apps, and the
okay.
malware makes your phone a proxy, and then they sell the proxy service. So when people want to do something like a DDoS attack, it's actually going through millions of people's phones and also their home computers and such. And it's called IPIDIA. And Google took it down by taking down their servers with a court order,
Oh,
not by cleaning out all the phones. That's something Microsoft has done several times. And I think the fundamental problem is it's mostly Chinese users, and China blocks Google. So if you have an Android phone in China, you have to go to random unapproved stores to get your apps,
Yeah, got it.
which are even more dirty than the Google Play Store, which is not very clean at all. So it's
Hmm.
understandable how it happens. And I remember a time years ago when they said there wasn't much phone malware. That time has passed. They also said there wasn't malware infecting routers, switches, and firewalls, and that time has also passed. That's now the number. So these devices are all getting infected now.
And we were told that Apple doesn't get infected, right?
Well, I think that is largely still true. I think iPhones have very little malware on them.
But not
However,
zero.
it's never been zero, but it
Right.
used to be much less than these other platforms. And I think it still
Yeah.
is, but that won't last much longer because Europe has now forced iPhones to have alternative app stores. That was part of
Right.
their, and so I would assume that will be followed by a lot more iPhones getting infected, although I
Yeah.
haven't seen that reported yet.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. So what happens? I don't know if you know what happens if you're an American or foreigner, bring a iPhone from out of country.
I wonder. That was the whole issue. The immediate thing Apple said is from now
Yeah.
on, they will sell iPhones in Europe that have actually access to these third-party stores, but not in America. And of course, that's the thing. Usually, you have to have the same device worldwide for this reason.
Right.
And usually, like all the privacy things they put in Europe did kind of pass through to America. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But you
We'll
can't
see.
realistically have different devices in different parts of the world, not for long.
No, no, but you can have different software. And when I
Yeah.
was in the Middle East, I was told that the software that was running specifically in the Middle East, they have a law there that if it's ever over 130 degrees outside, that workers don't have to work. So there was a
Oh, I would
law that,
hope not.
yeah, so there was a law that was passed that the phones can't go or display above 130 degrees.
Uh, I know in China
So,
they do require you to put a surveillance app on your Android. I've analyzed that app in my classes, and
uh,
it also lets you report scams and stuff. So they push it as like a consumer
yeah,
assistant,
right, right.
but it also gives the cops the ability to scan your phone and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Well, Sam, I got a story here.
Yeah.
Would you like a free 55-inch TV valued at $1,000? Do you hear
Yeah.
about this
Yeah. I
one?
heard about this. Yeah.
Telly's the company. They've been advertising. If you're willing to have a little advertising bar at the bottom of the screen of your TV at all times that you can't remove, you can have a TV for absolutely free.
Well,
Now, they,
people are paying for refrigerators now that do the same thing.
yeah, but you're paying for it. Here
I
you get a
know.
free TV,
I know.
a 55-inch valued at 1,000. But here's the deal: they send them to reviewers and they send them to different people, and I think the stat is about half of them arrive broken.
Yeah. I know
So
some people that leaves the TV on all the time, and that would drive me nuts. But I guess if you're used to that, you might as well have another screen with ads on it all the time.
but here's the funny part: is go to Costco, you get a 55-inch TV for
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you really want the ads?
Well, I guess
I
if you're
don't know.
really broke and you want a TV, you might put up with it.
Collect aluminum cans and turn them in. What do you need? 2,000 cans? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, and did we talk about this one? ICE is suing Instagram Meta to find the identity of a person posting ICE videos, anti-ICE
Oh,
videos.
there's a ton of that going on. Everybody's
Yeah,
always
but
trying to unmask their critics.
but apparently there's one individual that ICE is really going after,
Yeah.
and they haven't been able to get enough information, pardon me, to figure out who it is.
Yeah,
So,
this is why you want end-to-end encrypted platforms, so they just don't even know.
right,
And I think
right.
WhatsApp is that way now.
Well, that's what we're told.
Yeah. So I got some AI stories. Uh,
Okay.
there's an OnlyFans rival called ManyVids, which is posting porn videos, and the owner of the company seems to have gone mad with AI psychosis. She uses AI all the time, and now she said she's against pornography, even though she's running a porn company, and is posting increasingly bizarre, feverish spiritual rants and crazy AI generated videos. And people are getting very nervous. The CEO appears to have gone insane.
So, so this is a company. It's just not one person.
It's the CEO of the, yeah, it's a company, but the CEO has gradually gone insane with
But is she starring in the videos or is she
uh,
creating them?
the videos do in fact depict her. Yes.
Oh, I see. I
So I
see.
think, this is what it tends to do. You think of yourself as a superhero or something, and you think you have power and stuff. That's usually how AI psychosis
Yeah.
goes. It
Yeah.
sort of boosts up your ego. Um, and they also, just like the residential proxy network I was talking before, they're doing the same thing with LLMs. A malicious campaign is targeting exposed large language models, service endpoints to sell computing resources or cryptocurrency mining, resell the API access to provide darknet access to large language models without paying for it, exfiltrate data from prompts and conversation history, and then pivot into internal systems via MCP servers. So you have sort of a botnet of large language models now.
I see. I see. So, Sam, I got a story here. We
Yeah.
missed it. I can't believe we missed it.
Yeah.
It was the end of the world on December 25th. It was proclaimed by someone in Africa, I can't remember where, that it was the end of the world, sell all your possessions.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
he was building arcs
Oh, yeah.
and he would go up. Have you seen the video?
No, but I know this happens all the time. There was the guys that were going to escape on a comet, and the Seventh-day Adventists, I think, do this like every couple of years.
Yeah, but you got to listen to this one. This one's a good one. So he had these ships that he claimed that he was building, these boats that he was building, these arcs, and he was inviting people to come visit him and get on the ark, and
Hmm.
each ark would hold 2 million people.
Wow.
So, and he had videos and he'd show how he was hand building the arcs. So as it turns out, I'm not sure if he got arrested, but he was getting monetized. The videos were getting monetized. And the story I heard was he received enough money that he went out and bought a Mercedes Benz.
Well, yeah. And
And
he
as
didn't
it
have any
turned,
real arcs, did he? I mean,
no, he had real arcs, he had the tools,
big enough
but
for
it
two
turned,
million people? Is there any boat on Earth that could do that?
oh, what do you think, Sam?
I mean, those luxury liners, cruise liners, are like 5 or 10,000 people, I think. That sounds insane.
And where do you store the food? God
Yeah,
will
yeah,
provide.
yeah,
So here's the story, Sam. These these were boats, and he was building multiple by
yeah.
hand. So as it turns out, these were boat yards in whatever country it was in Africa, and he would just go there on weekends or when they're not working and make the video.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it was all propaganda,
yeah,
and he had people that apparently claimed there they sold their possessions and joined him.
yeah. Reminds me of
In
that
the
car
end,
company where they just rolled it down a hill and tilted the camera to make it look like it was driving.
yeah, that was the Nikola truck, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Same
there's a
idea,
sucker
but
born every minute.
he made enough
Oh,
money
yeah.
to buy himself a Mercedes Benz.
Well, you could buy like the Melania or Trump coin where you get absolutely nothing for your money, and they made a lot of money doing that. They don't even build a fake boat. So, yeah.
Well, different countries, different solutions to make
Yeah.
money.
Well, there's this thing called Moltbot that is all over the place. You install it on your machine and then it connects it to an AI service like ChatGPT, and then you let it execute code and control your browser and read your email and everything. And they say it's a really handy digital assistant, automates all sorts of good things for you, as long as you don't worry about the minor little security problems, uh, which are pretty extreme, of course. Uh, there's no sandboxing by default. Um, it often is implemented in a way. This is a pretty good one. People deploy it behind a local reverse proxy And by default, it trusts all local connections. So if you do that, it trusts all connections from the internet as local, giving them full privileges. So there's a bunch of flaws. Anyway, and of course, not to mention prompt injection, which is the
Yeah,
famous one. So people are doing it, but all the people doing it are taking a pretty big risk. But it's
got it.
very popular. And
Okay.
And there's another study repeating something that came out in a different form earlier. They took a text to image generator and linked it up to an image to text system and let the two AIs iterate over and over. And what they found was, of course, they eventually converge on very generic images that they call visual elevator music. And they said, now this is what's happening on a global scale because most of the internet is now AI generated. Scientific research is mostly AI generated. Term papers are AI generated. So the only available training data is in fact mostly AI generated now. So we are like a snake eating its own tail. And they say the whole internet and the whole world at large is doing this on a large scale, and we can expect the same result where everything will sort of get blanded out.
Yeah, yeah.
So and the CEO of Microsoft is now suddenly very nervous about AI. He said, well, it could be a bubble. And the telltale sign of if it's a bubble would be if only tech companies are benefiting from the rise of AI. So both the chief financial officer of OpenAI about a month ago and now a top executive at Microsoft are pretty much admitting that they're not going to make that money back. They've invested and they're going to need a government bailout, and it's going to be a huge crash like the internet bubble and the real estate bubble of 2008.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And there's so a lot of people are worried that scientific research is now mostly AI generated slop. And OpenAI has made a tool for scientists to use to write more research papers that like easily formats things in that language they use for so they say it's just a tool to help scientists, but people say this will just create even more slop AI research papers. So it's probably all true. And there's a massive AI chat app, which again used Google Firebase the same wrong way and leaked out all the private data. So I think one thing I might want to learn is how the mobile app development platform Google Firebase works. Apparently, it makes it easy to write an app and easy to end up with an insecure app.
I see.
So
I see.
I've noticed for doing reverse engineering of hundreds of Android apps, but they really do fall into like four categories, and it's probably just these different development platforms.
Yeah. Mm,
Anyway,
okay.
that's all I've got.
Yep, that's all I have too for today,
All
for
right,
time.
well, that'll do. And I'm planning to make another one of these on Monday, not Tuesday, because my schedule has changed. Now I'm teaching at another college.
Okay, very
O-
good.
Okay.